Do you think there will be a spirit body after the animal? Let me tell you about my experience first. That day, I had dinner. As usual, I went to check the surveillance video of the camera at the door. I took a look and everything was normal. I was going to take a shower and go to bed. At that moment, I found the cat of the neighbor's house in the mirror. It was nothing, but it was surprising. Behind the cat, there was a shadow of a cat. It has not a shadow of light. It has three-dimensional, as big as a cat, with the same shape and shadow. At first, I thought it was a spirit body. I thought it was a ghost. I just thought it was a camera image produced by a specific light condition and physical relationship. But I was more and more anxious, so I found the neighbor in the middle of the night and showed them the surveillance video. The neighbor was very frightened after watching the video. He told me that they had two cats, one black and one white. Unfortunately, the white one died 3 days ago. The two cats used to be very close and always played together. But since the white cat died, that black cat hasn't been very active. It always looks very tired and depressed. Recently, the black cat often goes out at night and comes home the next morning. I was shocked when I heard it. Is that shadow the soul of the white cat? Later, my son posted the surveillance video on the internet. Soon, the video went viral on social media. Even a newspaper reported that there was a mysterious ghost cat in our community. This not only became a hot topic of discussion here recently, but also received various comments and guesses from netizens from all over the world. Some people say that this is just a visual effect or a strange coincidence. Some people also think it as a real ghost. The neighbor's family was frightened, so they went to the backyard to bury the white cat and prayed. Unexpectedly, they found a small piece of land loose in the place where the white cat was buried. It seemed to have been dug up. They dug it up and took a look. As expected, the white cat's body was gone. At this time, they found the daughter who was hiding behind and watching. The daughter found that her parents noticed her and ran in a hurry. The couple thought that the child's behavior was a bit strange, so they quickly followed up. The daughter ran into the bedroom and locked the door. No matter how her parents persuaded her, the daughter just wouldn't open the door. There was no way. The mother found the spare key and opened the door. The girl began to scream in fear when she saw her parents. She begged her parents to go out. She shrugged in the corner. She only had a dirty rag in her hand. The couple spent more than an hour to calm her down. While the daughter was relaxing, the mother hugged her tightly to comfort her. The father carefully took away the rag in the daughter's hand. For a while, there was a bad smell in their room. They were surprised to find that the white cat's body was in the rag. It turned out that the little girl was sad because her beloved cat died. She secretly dug out the white cat's body and hid it in her room. And the parents didn't know about it. The couple realized that they were too busy. They didn't take good care of their daughter. They had to spend time with their daughter in the future. Later, the father quickly buried the cat's body in another corner of the garden. He secretly blasted the white cat. The story of the ghost cat is still circulating on the internet. The discussion of netizens has not yet come to a clear conclusion, but I believe that in the world we live in, there must be a lot of strange things that we can't explain. I am a hunter who lives in a forest. This forest is extremely dangerous, especially deep in the forest. Usually, we only hunt in the outskirts of the forest. Very few people take the risk to go deep into the forest. A few years ago, there were a lot of animals and a lot of them in the forest. You can get 3 or 4 wild rabbits or even wild boars a day. But later, the number of animals slowly decreased. Most of the animals are getting smarter and smarter. In order to avoid hunting in the outskirts, they all hid in the forest. Now, if you want to capture more prey, you can only go deep into the jungle. But the jungle is extremely dangerous. For this reason, I came up with a method that is both safe and efficient in capturing more animals. I spent a lot of money to buy a lot of cameras and installed them in various areas of the forest. In this way, you don't have to go deep into the forest frequently. It is also convenient to find more animal tracks, find more places where animals often gather and stay, then set up traps in these places. I can achieve digital intelligence hunting at home. And there are very few people who go deep into the forest. You don't have to worry about traps hurting people by accident. After everything is set up properly, I look at the surveillance cameras very actively every day. To prevent missing prey, of course, It asks also to prevent accidents. My genius method worked very quickly. In less than a week, I caught several wild chickens, wild boars, and wild rabbits. With such a smart trap, my hunting work has also been greatly reduced. Now I just need to observe the surveillance cameras, log the prey, and then position it directly to harvest. But soon, it all became a nightmare. After dinner that day, I was drinking tea leisurely at home like usual, watching surveillance videos to see if my trap has been harvested. But there was something unusual in the surveillance cameras that caught my attention. At first, I thought it was a deer. But when I zoomed in to look at the screen, I found it. It was a little girl in a white dress. She was standing next to the trap I set up before. I was wondering why the parents were so careless, let a child get lost in the woods at night. I was worried that she would be caught by the trap, so I quickly put on my jacket and ran into a forest. But the strange thing is, when I got to the trap, there was no one around. The little girl disappeared. When I was confused, I suddenly heard a child ask laughter in the bushes behind me. Did she hide in the bushes? I quickly dug into the bushes and pulled out the weeds, but I only found a dirty little shoe full of mud. I was terrified and took a step back. My whole body began to tremble. Sweat flowed down from my forehead and ears. I didn't dare look for it anymore. I quickly turned around and went home, but when I got home, I couldn't sleep at all. It was 3 o'clock in the morning. I still couldn't help but climb up to the surveillance room to carefully check the surveillance video. Sure enough, the little girl showed up again. She was still standing where she was just now. She seemed to be having fun. Because it was dark, the video was quite blurred. The little girl didn't seem to have feet. I zoomed in on the screen again. I hope I can recognize this little girl. She seemed to have sensed that I was approaching in advance. Suddenly, I turned my head to the camera. I used a pair of great big eyes to stare at the monitor. I was so scared that I turned off the monitor immediately. I hid in bed and kept persuading myself it must have been an illusion because I slept till late. The next morning, I brought the surveillance video to the police station. I wanted the police officer to help me find out who the little girl was. But after the police officer checked the information, he shook his head. He said he couldn't recognize her, and in the missing children's information over the past 2 years, it didn't match the little girl. This incident became a hot topic all of a sudden. Even reporters from the TV station were interested in this matter. Later, a few villagers and I had an incident 10 years ago. There was a little girl who was the same age as in the video. There was an accident when she came here by train with her family. Is this a coincidence? Everyone started to guess. The little girl in the video is not someone else. It has the soul of the child who died by accident. A month later, a man contacted me. He said the little girl in the video was not a ghost. It has his granddaughter. She is 9 years old this year. So I found the man. He told me that he and his granddaughter were on vacation in a nearby hotel. One night, he woke up and found his granddaughter missing. He began to look for her anxiously. Later, he found her by a big tree in the forest. That's where I put the camera. When he was found, the little girl was sleeping on the big tree. The little girl seemed to have wandered into the forest, accidentally entered the range of the camera. But when I asked the little girl if she had lost her shoes, "Did you hide in the grass and left?" she just shook her head and looked at me with her big gray eyes. She said she didn't remember anything. Is that really the case? What do you think? I am a psychiatrist. Today, I am going to share with you a story I've experienced. It is also a strange case that science can't explain. 2 years ago, I was invited by a client to go to his house to assess his son's mental state. His son is 20 years old, but he stays at home all day and never participates in any social activities. According to my experience, he should have a certain degree of autism. But there's one thing he's very obsessed with. That is painting. He often locks himself in the room for several days in a row just to paint. Generally, people in this state of mind are emotionally unstable and often feel insecure. Sometimes they even scream like crazy. The mother was very worried about her son's condition, so she found me and hoped I could help her son recover. I went into the house and stopped at the door of the young man's room. The door was not locked. Through the gap in the door, I saw a lot of paintbrushes and paint scattered on the floor of the room. It can be seen that the room is very messy. After I went in, I found that it was different from the room of the imaginary painter. The paintings in the room are all dark styles. I can see the artistic atmosphere. I can only feel a sense of repression and a sense of rebellion. In the corner, there was a skinny young man with a blurry expression on his face. He said something I couldn't understand. When I came in, he raised his hat and asked me if I wanted to know your secret. It was the first time I met such a patient. He must have some very mysterious things on him. As a psychiatrist, my first thought was that this young man did have a certain mental problem. But I don't know exactly what it is yet. But the first time I met him, I found that he didn't scream or go crazy like his mother told me. Instead, he was very friendly to me. He took his painting and showed it to me. What could be painted were some terrible scenes of fire, car accidents, and gunshots. The painting also marked the date. He said, "These are not paintings, but real events." The date marked is the date of the incident. These paintings are all predictions of what is going to happen. Of course I don't believe it. In my opinion, this is just one of his mental problems. That is, partial performance. Then I left his room and found his parents. I told them that today was just a preliminary observation. Tomorrow I will come again with a specific treatment plan. The next day, on my way to his house, I found a restaurant on fire. I didn't care at first, but then thought, isn't the scene the same as the young man's painting? Everything in the painting was presented in detail and accurately. I immediately accelerated to see the young man. But after I arrived, I found that his house was locked. The neighbor said, the young man went crazy again. His parents took him to the mental hospital. I quickly inquired about the address of the hospital. I drove there. On the way, I turned on the radio and wanted to see the news of the day. The news reported that a supermarket had a gunshot incident, causing multiple casualties. What's more strange is that the scene was more similar to what I saw yesterday. That is, the scene painted by the young man was exactly the same. I was wondering if he could really predict the future. When I arrived at the hospital, I found him tied to the sickbed and struggling. He shouted, "Our whole family will die in a car accident. We will all die in a car accident." The doctor finally gave a diagnosis and told his parents that his situation was too serious. There are limited medical conditions here, and there is not enough technology and equipment to treat him. We can only let him calm down for the time being and suggest that his parents transfer him to a better mental hospital for treatment. So, with the help of the hospital staff, his parents took him to the car in the central hospital. He also got in the car with them. He was struggling all the way. He shouted, "Stop the car! Stop the car! Stop the car quickly, or we'll all die! Stop the car quickly!" Thinking of the fire today and the gunshot incident in the news, I felt very uneasy. Thinking back to the picture he showed me yesterday, there is also a picture of a car accident where an ambulance collided with a truck. But when I thought it was too late, when I was going to ask the driver to stop the car, the accident had already happened. What that young man predicted was all right. All the people in the car died, except me. But I was also seriously injured and hospitalized. I regret it very much. Experiences made me not take the words of that young man seriously. May they rest in another place. When I was in college, there was a legend in the school that there was an old tree behind our school that could reunite lonely people and find a partner for single people. But my friend and I were not interested in it at all. According to the legend, if anyone wants to make his beloved fall in love with him, he just needs to write the name of the person he loves on a piece of paper and wrap the person's hair and his hair together in the paper and bury it in front of that tree. This person's wish will come true. This legend was originally only circulated on the campus network. Until the girl in our class practiced it herself, things became out of control. The girl had a crush on a very handsome boy, but the boy already had a girlfriend. We all advised her to give up, but she decided to use the school legend to get the handsome guy. A few days later, we were surprised to find that the boy actually broke up with his girlfriend and was with the girl in our class. But it didn't end there. After about a month of happy dating, there began to be contradictions. The two of them gradually began to ignore each other. When they were together, they were very tired and upset. Then one day, when I was writing an article for the club's column at home, a friend called me and told me to hurry to school. He said that the girl in our class went to great lengths to chase after her boyfriend. I didn't know until I got to school. The boy was found hanged on the old tree behind the school. The police set up a blockade at the scene and did not let anyone approach. The girl was heartbroken after seeing this scene. I could hear her heartbroken cry from a few miles away. After that, she didn't come to class for several weeks. I was a little worried about her, so I asked a friend to visit her at her house. When I got to her house, her mother opened the door. Her mother told us that she had locked herself in their room for several weeks without eating or drinking. We hurried upstairs and entered the room. I found that the girl had lost a lot of weight and her eyes were swollen. There were traces of saliva on her dark circles and her hair was messy. She was sitting on the bed and mumbling something. My friend and I wanted to go to her to comfort her, but after seeing my friend, she suddenly screamed in terror. She said something was sitting on my friend's neck. We were all shocked and didn't quite understand what she meant. We thought she had been hit in the heart after her boyfriend died, so she was talking nonsense. We sat down to comfort her and asked her about her recent situation and plans for the future. But wouldn't say anything. Another week passed. We were all in class that day, but we suddenly received a shocking news. The girl committed suicide. After that, my friend and I all thought that this series of events happened after the girl practiced the school legend. So behind all this, it should be related to the old tree behind the school. We decided to find out the truth, so we went to the girl's house again to hold a memorial service. We borrowed her diary from her parents. The girl wrote in her diary that although she chased the boy she loved wholeheartedly, every time she dated, she didn't really feel happy. Her boyfriend always acted strangely. Although he was there, his heart was not there. She also wrote that not long after they started dating, she often saw a ghost-like woman riding on her boyfriend's neck. The day before Shaq committed, she saw that woman again standing under the old tree behind the school in a wrinkled school uniform, laughing and asking the girl, "Do you really want to be with that boy forever?" The girl immediately nodded and agreed. The next day, she committed suicide. I finished reading this diary shakily, seeing that I got goosebumps. It was obvious that the problem was with that old tree, so I went to the school news organization to find out the origin of the rumor. They told me a sad story. 10 years ago, there was a couple in our school who were quite famous. They met under that old tree every day after school. This tree also symbolizes love. But one day, they suddenly broke up. The boy fell in love with a more beautiful girl. The abandoned girl was heartbroken. On the day of the graduation ceremony, she hanged herself on this tree. Later, the rumor spread slowly. It is said that the became a soul and put the blessing of love on this tree. The young couple will meet under the tree, kiss and bury their hair. Their love will last a long time, but they seem to have forgotten. That story is a tragedy. Since then, this legend has been circulating in the school. There are constantly women who trick this ritual and put their happiness on this tree or the soul who committed tree. Later, I published an article in the school magazine. I hope it can convince students to realize the absurdity and unreliability of these behaviors. Although the article has a lot of reading, I am still worried that the curse may not be over yet. Under that tree, more sad souls may continue to be buried. I used to be a volunteer in a charity organization for a while. One year, we went to a poor plot to do poverty alleviation work. After overcoming various difficulties and working hard for I gradually began to adapt to the culture and lifestyle here. But a terrible incident caused the whole project to stop immediately. It happened to my friend Joxie and I. We met through the volunteer group. She is also a member of this volunteer project. Zhao Mai is the same age as me. Zhao Mai's father is a pharmacist. One time, Zhao Mai fell off the cliff and she went up the mountain to pick herbs with her father. When I heard the news of I was so sad. At the funeral, I collected a lot of wild flowers she liked and put them in her hand. I closed my eyes and prayed for her. She lied quietly in the coffin. Nothing seemed to happen. She just fell asleep quietly. She looked so peaceful. Poor Zhao Mai is in full bloom. Even if she lies in the coffin, she is still so gentle and beautiful. The red lips of the cherry blossom and her white and smooth skin form a clear contrast. 2 days after the funeral, I was working in the house. I heard someone knocking on the door very anxiously outside the door. I opened the door and found that it was Zhao Mai's sister. She looked sad and anxious. Tears were still in her eyes. I asked her what happened. She told me that Zhao Mai's grave was dug up and her body was gone. I had nothing to say for a while. I just felt cold, my legs were shaking and I could hardly stand. But I still had the courage to follow Zhao Mai's sister to the bottom of the tomb quickly. Some volunteers also rushed over. Sure enough, 2 days after entering the grave, Zhao Mai's grave was dug up. There was mud and stones all over the tomb. The tombstone was also overturned. The coffin lid was also pulled over. There were some brown stains and blood on it. Zhao Mai's body flew away. When I saw this, I felt very sad and angry. Who is so sad and crazy? But we couldn't do anything about it. We could only leave it to the local police. When I returned to the office, I was so upset that I couldn't work. I went to bed early. When I fell asleep, I felt that someone was calling me. I opened my eyes deliberately and saw a woman in a red wedding dress standing in a thin fog and breathing heavily. The breathing became louder and louder. I wondered why this person looked so much like Axiomi. But why was she wearing a wedding dress? I was shocked. I woke up, but there was nothing in front of me. Was I dreaming? But the scene was so real. After that, I dreamed of Zhao Mai for several nights. But every time the scene was different. Once, I was walking on the main street of the village. I saw Zhao Mai, who was still dressed as a bride, standing in front of a shop. But when I walked in, she disappeared again. I couldn't fall asleep again. I was so nervous. At that moment, I realized that Zhao Mai might be dreaming of me. But what on earth did she want to tell me? Why did she dress up as a bride? The next day, I went to a wedding dress shop nearby. I described the red dress that Zhao Mai wore in her dream to the clerk. I asked her if anyone had bought such a wedding dress recently. She told me that a man had bought it. And he recognized that man. He was a young unemployed man in the village. He bought the dress first. A few days later, he bought a lot of cosmetics and accessories. Considering the economic situation of that man, the clerk also felt a little strange. But he didn't question too much. After all, it was a business. Then, I told the clerk about the news. I notified Zhao Mai's sister. Zhao Mai's sister also recognized that man. She also told me that that man had pursued Zhao Mai many times. But Zhao Mai rejected him many times. I doubted that he must have something to do with Zhao Mai's disappearance. So we found that man's house together. With anger, we broke in and rushed in. As soon as we entered the house, we smelled the stench of corruption throughout the house. It was disgusting. We covered our noses and went to the bedroom. We really found Zhao Mai's body lying on the bed by the wall. And that man was holding Zhao Mai and coaxing her to sleep. A huge dark red letter was changing on the wall. It was strange, and Zhao Mai was wearing the brightest dress I saw in my dream. But her face was no longer bold. The whole dress was permeated with black liquid. The body was rotten. That man even put on thick makeup for her. It was even more strange. This scene made me unable to let go for a long time. This man was crazy. I don't know if he was crazy because of love or he was mentally perverted. He couldn't accept Zhao Mai's death, or he didn't think Zhao Mai was dead. When the police arrested him, he said Zhao Mai wasn't dead. They were married, and they were happy during this time. He didn't understand why the police arrested him. After this, I couldn't work in this place anymore. I asked the charity organization to fire me. This matter still bothers me. I also started to believe that a person can do anything no matter how unimaginable it is. I am an ordinary taxi driver. I just got married last year. This year, my wife and I are planning to have a baby, so I need to work harder. That day, after I sent a guest off, it was already late. I was about to go home. On the way, I saw a woman in a red dress and a red umbrella. She was standing by the road and waving at me. She looked very anxious. I thought I would borrow another taxi before going home, so I parked the car on the side of the road. She got on the car quickly. After getting on the car, she gave me a note. It said where she was going. But this address was a little strange. I've been driving a taxi for more than 4 years. This is the first time I've seen this address. Maybe it is too remote. I didn't think much about it. Turn on the navigation and set off. The navigation shows it takes about an hour to get there. On the way, that woman in red didn't say a word. I mean, it is not because she didn't want to talk. It is because she didn't say anything. She just communicated with me through the note. I just felt the car was very cold. I turned off the air conditioner, but every few minutes, I could feel a chill. It was weird. It gave me goosebumps. About 45 minutes later, the navigation suddenly pointed out the wrong route. Then the woman in red seemed to have foreseen it. She gave me another piece of paper. There was a small map on it. There were also instructions on it. According to the instructions on it, there was about half an hour to go. This is when I looked at her through the rearview mirror and found that she was staring at me. And since she got in the car, she has been staring at me. Her eyes were cold and scary. I quickly moved my eyes away. According to the instruction on the map, focus on driving. Suddenly, there was an intersection in front of me. On the road sign, it means turn left into the city, turn right into the country. The woman in red raised her hand and pointed to my right. She said it was an intersection. I didn't know the way. I could only follow her. I drove for another 15 minutes. She suddenly told me to stop. I stopped the car. She got out of the car. She was gone soon. It was also at this time that two strange men jumped out of the woods. They seemed to be bad guys. The two men were short and fat. They were all wearing bird-shaped horror masks. It looked scary. What's worse, they even had guns and swords. I quickly started the car, but at the moment when the engine was just lit, one of the men broke out the window and pointed his gun at my head. I've never been so scared. I closed my eyes and turned around. I didn't know who it was. The two men kept shooting from behind. Luckily, the bullets didn't hit. It has been a long time. I felt like I had thrown them away. I called the police as soon as I regained my composure. But the scary thing didn't end there. I was driving and looking at the scenery along the road. I felt like I had just seen it. It turns out that I have been turning all the time. Sure enough, I went to the same road again. I saw the woman in a red umbrella and a red dress again. She was still standing by the road and waving at me. At this moment, I realized that something was wrong. I didn't dare to stop the car this time. When I drove past, I looked back. She was gone. I didn't let my guard down. Soon I found she was in front of my car. I was driving at full speed. How could she be so slow? It was too late to brake. Someone hit her with a car. I don't know how long it took. When I woke up, I found that the car didn't hit anyone, but a tree. I was very shocked. I really couldn't understand. Fortunately, the police came and saved me, and they also arrested two suspects around here. They are the two people who wanted to rob me with guns. It turns out that the two people have been robbing in this area. In the interrogation of the Setwo people, the police also found a body of a young girl in a red dress. According to the investigation, the girl has been missing for more than a month. More than a month ago, she was driving a car and got lost on the road. It was raining heavily at that time. She ran to seek help with a red umbrella. Unfortunately, she met the two robbers. In this way, the red-dressed woman I met that day was her. She was still wandering around where she was hurt. This has been bothering me all the time. Since then, even in the daytime, every time I see a passenger on the street hit me with a car, I feel a kind of fear. And at night, I will never receive any suspicious customers again. I was kidnapped once, and I almost lost my life. That was a year ago. Now that I think about it, it is still like what happened yesterday. Around 6 or 7 p.m. that day, I came home from school. It was full moon at that time, and there was a chill in the air. I got off the bus, and I felt that there was a sound of footsteps behind me. There was a person following me all the time. I haven't seen this person at school. It shouldn't be from school. After I noticed something was wrong, I deliberately deviated from the route home. I thought I could get rid of him, but the people behind me were still following me. My legs began to tremble, and my heart began to beat faster. The sound of footsteps behind me was getting louder and faster. I panicked, and I had to speed up and run. I remember there was a shortcut home nearby, but I had to run through a forest. I ran hard, and the people behind me started calling me. Young man, wait a minute. I didn't dare to stop. Slowly, I began to feel weak, and my legs began to cramp. So I went around and ran to an activity center. When I stopped, I took a breath. I immediately found a place to hide and hid. There was a crowd around me. After a while, that person didn't seem to follow me. I think Ivy got rid of him. Then I took out my phone and was ready to call the police. I happened to receive a news on my phone. According to the news, A middle-aged man attacked the police and escaped from prison. He also reminded the citizens not to go out at night and lock their windows and cars. I was even more panicked just when I was thinking. Suddenly someone grabbed my neck from behind with his arm. I struggled hard, but he was too strong. I didn't have a chance to escape. I was knocked out in no time. When I woke up, I found myself in a dark and damp room. It felt like an underground room. The floor was hard and cold. There were no windows around, only a staircase and a bathroom. I wanted to stand up and run, but my hands and feet were tied up by the rope. I couldn't run at all. This is the voice of a middle-aged man I heard. He seemed to be on the phone upstairs. The more I could hear. Tied up, give money, to little, at a little, something like that. Did he want to sell me to a trafficker? I was scared to death. After he hung up the phone, he walked down the stairs with an evil smile, came close to me. I shouted madly, "Let me go." He left and said to me, "Don't shout. It is useless. I can only struggle hard to get out of that person." But the rope was too tight. My hands were numb. He was getting closer and closer to me. I was afraid and angry. I spat on his face. It angered him all of a sudden. He pulled out a knife and stabbed my thigh. I was in pain. At this moment, the doorbell rang. Then there was another loud knocking sound. I heard someone coming. I was about to shout for help. The guy grabbed a roll of tape and sealed my mouth. Before leaving, he warned me to keep quiet. After he went upstairs, I looked around to see if there was anything that could break the rope. I found a piece of iron on the wall. I saw hope. I stood up and cut the rope behind my back. The noise upstairs was getting louder. At this moment, I was nervous. Then there was a doorbell. Someone knocked on the door and left. The kidnapper was about to come down. Fortunately, before he came down, I finally cut their up. But I only untied the rope that tied my hands. Then I heard the sound of someone going downstairs. I was about to suffocate. I hurried back to where I was. I put my hand behind my back. I couldn't let him know that I had cut the rope. Soon he came home. Without further ado, he grabbed my ankle and started dragging it. Coincidentally, his phone rang. He let go of me and went out to answer the phone. This is an opportunity. I quickly untied the rope on my foot and grabbed a piece of iron on the floor. I hid for a while. The men came back again and found me gone. He was screaming and telling me not to hide and looking for me everywhere. I hid behind a pile of boxes. I heard his footsteps getting closer and closer. I saw him walking into the bathroom. I took the opportunity to hit his head with an iron rod. He fell to the ground and his head turned red. I ran upstairs and rushed out the door. I ran to the nearest house and screamed for help. Fortunately, a woman heard me screaming for help and opened the door. When she saw me, she was shocked and terrified. Soon we called the police. I was sent to the hospital, but the police didn't catch the kidnapper. Until today, they are still looking for that man. My father is missing. It has been more than a week. In the last email he sent me before he went missing, he wrote, "If I go missing or something else happens, don't come to me. Be sure to protect yourself." It all started with a terrible unknown creature 20 years ago. He was still a graduate student and was studying in Japan. In order to maintain his livelihood, he started a part-time job in a local supermarket. Because the rent was too high, he moved to a more remote place where the rent was cheaper. During that time, he often worked very late. One night at 11 o'clock, he got tired and hungry and got off work. He wanted to find a place to eat on the way home. He happened to see a noodle shop and walked in. He found that there was no one in the shop. Is this shop not good? But since everyone has come in, let us just eat something. Then he walked to the counter to prepare a meal. He saw the boss wearing a mask and glasses and a hat on his head. This dress is too strange. I didn't care so much. My father was hungry at the time and just wanted to eat something quickly. He quickly gave a bowl of ramen and added all the ingredients. Soon, the boss took a bowl of hot noodles and walked out from the back of the counter. After a while, his father immediately started to eat, and he was surprised to find that the noodles were surprisingly delicious. In this quiet street, there was a shop that was so low-key, but the food was so delicious. He instantly felt that he was so lucky to find this noodle shop. But it was a little strange that until now, except for him, there was still no one in the shop. Suddenly, the shopkeeper put the sealed sign on the table without saying a word and said it was going to close. Then he turned to the kitchen and started to clean the table where his father hurriedly accelerated to finish eating and pay the bill. The shopkeeper took the money and still didn't he say a word. The next few days, after getting off work every night, my father would go to that noodle shop for dinner. Every time. He was the only customer in the shop. Every time. The shopkeeper was wearing the same clothes, the same mask and hat, covering his face and staring at my father after eating, putting down the sealed sign, and closing the door. This is like my father's private canteen. Many times, my father wanted to talk to the shopkeeper, but the shopkeeper ignored him. One night, after my father got off work, he called a colleague to go to that noodle shop together. They walked into the alley full of anticipation, but they found that they couldn't find the shop at all. The noodle shop seemed to disappear in vain. My father was confused and embarrassed. He didn't understand why he was alone no matter how late it was. The noodle shop was open all night, but he couldn't find the shop. He looked around in a daze and didn't know how to explain to his colleagues. But his colleagues didn't seem to complain and said, "It's okay, let's go again next time." But my father felt very sorry for this embarrassing incident and didn't want to go. Soon, he slowly found the pattern. Every time he went alone, the noodle shop was there. And when he went with his friends, he couldn't find the shop. He also asked the noodle shop owner many times why this happened, but the boss never answered him. He never heard the boss say a word. Gradually, my father began to feel something was wrong and stopped going to that noodle shop. But in order to solve the confusion in his heart, my father searched the internet for a lot of news about that noodle shop. The results shocked him. In order to personally verify the conclusions on the internet, a few days later, one night, he went to that shop alone again. When he went in, he was shaking all over and his heart was beating fast. After trying to keep himself calm, he walked up to the boss and ordered a bowl of noodles. When the noodles were served, my father screamed out loud that there was a bug in the noodles. When the shop owner turned his back to check the bowl of noodles, he took the opportunity to pull off the shop owner's mask and hat. But soon he regretted it. The person in front of him had a flat face and a tight skin. He had no facial features and no hair. Now, the rumors found on the internet have been confirmed. The shop owner is actually the legendary faceless evil spirit. Whenever a faceless evil spirit appears and wants to harm someone, he will appear around this person from time to time, and only this person can see him. No matter where the victim goes, he will follow and keep pestering until they die. But my father tried to escape, but the evil spirit warned him that he would appear every 20 years. 20 years later was the time of my father's death. And when I received the news that my father was missing, it was exactly 20 years even though my father had predicted his disappearance. And he told me not to look for him, but my intuition told me that it was not simple. A week later, without any news, I couldn't wait any longer. I decided to fly to Japan to look for my father. When I arrived, I knocked on the door impatiently. No one opened the door at first, so I had to knock harder. After a while, I finally heard my father's warm voice. I could hear his voice coming closer to Thether, but I couldn't hear the sound of his footsteps at the door. A few minutes later, the door opened slowly and made a sizzling sound. As soon as I entered the door, I began to look around. All the lights and electrical appliances seemed to be useless. The only thing that lit up the room was a candle placed at the end of the corridor. Then I saw my father's clothes piled up on the floor in the corner, as if his body was pulled out of his clothes and completely disappeared. There was a top hat next to the clothes, and a voice recorder. My father's voice. It turned out that the voice I heard just now was from here. When I was still wondering, I suddenly heard a terrible voice. It was definitely not a human voice. It sounded like a devil. "You shouldn't be here. But since you're here, just stay. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha." I am a marine biologist who just transferred to a marine research institute. In the new institute, there is a colleague named Lao Ma. He can be said to be the strangest scientist. He looks very clumsy and speechless, and he has a bad temper. I rarely see him talking to other colleagues. Although the researchers are used to being alone, he is definitely not a person who is good at cooperation. He won't tell anyone about his research progress or results. I used to think he was just a little weird. There should be no bad intentions, but since I accidentally found his secret, my opinion of him has completely changed. That day, The director of the institute gave me a file and asked me to give it to Lao Ma. I took the file to find him. His office is separated from others, and because of his personality, other people in the institute basically want to take the initiative to find him. I knocked on several doors and no one answered. Because I have other work, I can't wait for him here all the time. So I am going to open the door directly and put the file down. When I opened the door, the scene in front of me made my knees soft, my legs tremble uncontrollably. The decoration of this office is very strange. The whole room is black. The color of the light is dark red. I looked around and found a wall with an upper body like a man and a lower body like a fish with unusual skeleton. Is this a real skeleton specimen or an artwork created by Lama himself? Under the drive of curiosity, I can't help but want to touch it. Because the light is dim, I can't control the strength of the touch. Accidentally, I moved the skeleton tail like a fish. Suddenly, like touching a mechanism, a door suddenly opened next to me. There is a staircase out of the underground behind the door. I want to see where this staircase leads to. So I walked in and soon reached the underground. Here is actually a secret research laboratory. There is a huge water tank inside. There are many marine life in it. Is this the place where Lao Ma does research? But there is a strong smell of quiet air here that makes my eyes hurt. All the water tanks are made of transparent glass. But the strange thing is that there is a water tank that is black and I can't see anything. I went up and wanted to take a closer look at what kind of creatures are raised in this different water tank. Suddenly, a huge fish tail rolled in front of me and scared me. I touched the switch on the wall and turned on the light above my head. A black water tank became bright. But when I looked at the front again, I was terrified. That tail is actually a mermaid's tail. Am I dreaming? Is this huge mermaid in front of me real? I was so surprised that I covered my mouth and didn't dare to make a sound. The mermaid in the water tank was locked by a chain. The chain was still working. It looked very painful. I found the controller, turned off the current, and opened the chain. The mermaid who unlocked the lock instinctively came to me and left at me. The face of the mermaid and the loud scream scared me to death. I wanted to take off my glasses and wipe me sweat, but I accidentally dropped my glasses on the ground. I was so surprised that I became blind in an instant. I quickly sat on the ground and searched for my glasses. Touching it, I felt that my hand touched a foot. When I put on my glasses and stood up, I saw that Lao Ma raised his axe and was about to cut me. I quickly flashed to one side and avoided his attack. But Lao Ma quickly raised his axe again and was about to cut me. I didn't have time to hide. I thought that I was going. I closed my eyes in despair. But then I suddenly thought that there were sharks in some of the other water tanks here. And there was a sonar remote in my pocket. Sharks will go crazy when they are stimulated by sonar. I immediately went into my pocket and took out the sonar device. In an instant, those sharks went completely crazy. They crashed into the water tank violently. The glass was broken and even the water flowed. Those sharks swam out and bit Lao Ma's arm with one bite. Then they bit Lao Ma's liver with another bite. The blood suddenly spurted out and Lao Ma became the shark's neck. But a lot of water also spurted out from all sides. Within a few minutes, this underground laboratory became a mess. I was in the water and was struggling with the rising seawater. I only felt weaker and weaker. Just when I felt that I was about to drown, a mermaid suddenly appeared in front of me and dragged me away. When I woke up again, I found myself lying safely on the hospital bed. I knew that it was the mermaid who saved me. I was very grateful and sincerely hoped that she could regain her freedom and safely return to the ocean that belonged to her. I told this story to my friends, but they didn't believe that there were mermaids in the world. They thought that I had an illusion the one who saved me might just be a dolphin. No matter what, I am very grateful that God let me live again. Although I almost died, I am still passionate about marine research. But since then, my view of the ocean and my understanding of the ocean have been different from before. And the most important thing is that every time I eat fish, I will think of that mermaid. Has been working hard for several days. It makes me extremely tired. My brain seems to be calling for rest. In addition, today is the anniversary of my girlfriend and me. I have to buy a gift before the store closes. But before that, I have to find something to fill my stomach. So I have to get off work early today. It has snowing outside. The cold air makes me tremble all over. I put my hands deep in my pocket to keep warm. Suddenly, passed by the street. I walked into a restaurant and ordered a takeout. I took that account and walked towards the subway station. Suddenly, a poor beggar came to me and showed a pitiful expression and looked at me. I was stunned. When I was about to get close to him, he suddenly took the takeout bag in my hand and turned around and ran away. I didn't have time to buy another one, so I had to get that dinner back. I quickly chased him and ran several streets. Finally, I caught up with the alley. The alley is a dead end. What surprised me was that countless stray cats and dogs were wandering around here. The boy suddenly stopped and turned around and looked at me with a strange smile. He immediately realized that something was wrong, as expected. As soon as I turned around, I saw ferocious and vicious guys walking towards me. One is tall and the other is short. He smiled and said to let me hand over all my valuables and let me go. I looked at them in panic and didn't understand what happened. But he suddenly punched me in the face. I felt dizzy and touched my face in blood. I looked at them fiercely and began to scream. The stray cats and dogs ran away in panic. But this alley is a dead end. No one heard my cry for help. Just when I was in despair, a terrible devil appeared in the dark alley. He is tall and has rough skin. He stared at my red eyes as if he was going to swallow me on the spot. I was shocked and felt that my soul had left my body. My limbs were shaking and I couldn't speak. I looked at the two robbers in front of him. I could only ask the devil for help. I hoped he could solve the two robbers in front of me. But what surprised me was that the little bad guy stared at me blindly and didn't care if I asked the devil for help. Isn't he afraid of the devil behind him? Or he couldn't see the huge, fierce, and scary monster at all? But the devil-like monster didn't help me. Instead, he took a sharp stance and made a terrible roar and yelled at me to get close to me. I wanted to run away, but there were robbers and monsters in front of me, and I was still in a dead end. There was no way to escape. Just at that moment, I suddenly heard a voice whispering in my ear to encourage me to be brave and kill the devil to escape. But I was too scared. But that voice kept repeating in my ear. I was about to go crazy. Extreme fear and inexplicable anger filled my brain. At that moment, I felt my soul awakening and got up quickly and grabbed an iron stick on the ground and kept hitting the devil in front of me. Only by eliminating him could I get rid of the fear in my heart. The more I was afraid, the more powerful the iron stick was. I didn't know how strong and brave I was. Although the devil in front of me was also trying to resist and attack me, I still fell to the ground and bled all over. Then I turned around and looked at the little guy's ass. I only saw his pale face and quickly ran out of the alley. I was the only one left who couldn't recover for a long time. I saw the devil lying on the ground. I was like a balloon that had run out of air. I was paralyzed and threw the iron stick and ran out of the alley. Later, I was sent to the hospital with the little guy, but he was tied to the sickbed. After seeing me, he struggled and kept saying to me, "You are a devil. You are a pervert killing devil. Doctor, let me go. Let me go quickly. He will kill me. It seems that he is going crazy and will be tied to the sickbed by the doctor." And I was transferred to a separate ward.